Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Ian Rivers. We are back, and I'd like to think better than ever heading into 2026. Ian, new year, same Beavs, they're rolling. What's up? How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. Refreshed, recharged. New year is here, and we're ready to keep rocking and rolling. So, lots of news. You know, it's been over the winter. It's a little bit of a slower news cycle around the holidays, but we've gotten some things to talk about. So we've got plenty to talk about today on another edition of the Beaver Banter podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start off with some breaking news, or at least just kind of things that are kind of all-encompassing to get this podcast going. And then we'll talk about the Beavers exhibition in men's hockey against the Gophers, preparing for Tech. And then, of course, men's and women's basketball getting back up, women's hockey, a big series against Merrimack. So a lot of things to talk about. But, Ian, I think the thing that, again, all-encompassing is to talk about NSIC Network and Midco Sports Plus teaming up beginning in the fall of 2026. Now, this is according to a press release from bsubeavers.com. Says the NSIC and Midco Sports have expanded their partnership by providing fans with a direct-to-consumer digital network experience. The NSIC network will be powered by Midco Sports Plus and will serve as the centralized home for NSIC digital content, offering exclusive live and on-demand streaming coverage of all 16 member institutions beginning in the fall of 2026. So through a monthly subscription, the press release continues, NSIC Network broadcasts on Midco Sports Plus will include all home regular season conference and non-conference contests of sports for football, volleyball, women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, wrestling, softball, and baseball. Production for NSIC Network broadcasts will be the responsibility of the home institution. Other streamed events will be featured on the network in front of the paywall. NSIC championships will also be streamed on the NSIC network. And then you have some quotes from people involved with the NSIC and Midco Sports, and a couple ADs kind of get into the mix. Of course, NSIC Network with the Midco Sports Plus kind of team up will be available through mobile and tablet apps, iOS, Android, Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, all that kind of same stuff. Basically, if you've been watching Beaver hockey on Midco Sports Plus, you know how to get it. And that's basically kind of the gist of things. And the press release will go on to talk a little bit more about Midco and the NSIC kind of separately. But that's the gist of it, Ian. So what changes is basically it's behind a paywall, right? Like if you go to watch NSIC games, they are free to watch on the NSIC. It's a Roku app. It's a mobile app. We watch it all the time. Now the only difference is that those games are going to be on Midco Sports Plus instead, and they are going to be behind a paywall. Like, if you hop on the Midco Sports app to watch a Beaver hockey game, you'll see Summit League basketball pulled up. You'll see, NDSU versus UND pulled up on there. And, that's an option to buy a package for Summit League games and things like that. This is a couple things because nothing really changes from the outset, Ian, of the schools. They all are having to produce their own games, which they were already doing. It's basically just going to take place in a new location that's behind a paywall. Just kind of instant gut level thoughts. What do you think?
I think it's a net negative for the conference as a whole in terms of exposure for your brand on a level of listen, it's not the end of the world for a lot of Beaver hockey fans because they were already going to be paying for Midco from October through March, and so for the most part, that's when a lot of sports take place. Maybe now you have to get 2 or 3 extra months of the subscription.
It goes from late August to now late April. You just kind of tack on a couple months on each end. Yeah.
Maybe now it makes more sense to just get the annual subscription and let it sit there if you're really a fan. But, for the fact that it's the Division II I know for a fact there's plenty of, casual alumni that are going to graduate from BSU and that enjoy following the football team or the soccer team or any other sport, basketball, volleyball. And now they're just going to not do it because now they have to pay money they weren't planning on paying to watch a sport at a college that they went to. Like, I just think that it's going to hurt that level of fan from this perspective. Now, there's probably reasoning behind it that I am not in the room to understand. I don't know who the money is going to go to. Like, is this?
I mean,
this
it's
is
probably
just benefiting the conference and benefiting
right. If we're
Midco?
guessing, it probably goes to the conference, and then the money is divvied up equally between the schools. Would be the
Potentially.
guess. So obviously, this is a revenue thing. It's a revenue thing for the colleges. So from that aspect, you understand. Like everybody understands. Like you gotta make money. You gotta do your thing. But you're right. Like that is something that is kind of the fine line you have to walk is of course you need the revenue. And I think every school in the NSIC would like an extra little bump in the funds that they use for athletics and things like that. And obviously that's going to be a positive for Bemidji State and it's going to be a positive for the other schools in the NSIC.
Is it?
So
I'm being serious. I want to bring it up because something very, very similar to this happened with the hockey team. And obviously, yeah, COVID is a big deal and was thrown in there as well. So I don't want to ignore that elephant in the room. But for whatever reason, they stopped broadcasting the hockey games locally on cable television in the greater Bemidji area. And ever since then, there has been a strict downtick in attendance numbers at the game. And I think I've theorized, whether it's on here or not, that has a big part to do with the casual fan experience not wanting to commit to going to a game in mid-February between Bemidji State and Lake Superior State when they are just not familiar with the team anymore, because they used to be able to turn on at least all of the home games that were broadcast locally and follow the team and get to learn the players. And then it made them more likely to say, you know what? No, let's go to 3 hockey series this year. Maybe now they're only coming to 1 if they're coming to any at all. I do think that had something to do with it. Yes, COVID did affect it, and the university hasn't rebounded from a ticket sales.
A lot of them haven't. Yeah, that's just a general.
A lot of college hockey, hasn't. A lot of sports haven't. So that's a big deal there. But I do wonder how this is going to affect the conference as a whole, like just in terms of popularity. Like, not that Division II sports has ever been the most popular thing, but like, how easy it is to, when the Beavers are playing in a national quarterfinal game to say, hey, I'm telling my parents to turn on the game because they don't have to pay. They're like, oh yeah, you guys are going? Like, yeah, we'll turn it on. We'll watch it. Like, whatever.
Right.
Neither of us went to the school. Neither of us went to Mankato, but we're still going to watch it. It's fun. And now I don't know if you're going to be able to convince people like that to do something like that for a big event.
I think the playoffs are on ESPN Plus, weren't they?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was at the game. I got my money up and went down to Mankato. So
that's true.
No, so you could be right about that. Yeah, the playoffs are on ESPN Plus. So, but yeah.
But I get your general sentiment, by the way, still reigns true of like, yes, there is a factor of you are risking some of the, and again, I don't know what the right phrase to use is. So like, don't pin me to this, but like your lower propensity, technically, like ones who are like casual, they're going to follow along. And if the team is great, they're going to slowly uptick in that. And if for whatever reason, the team isn't having a great season, they're maybe not going to quite be as invested. And there is a risk of taking that away. You could use a larger example, right? Like the Minnesota Twins went off of cable, or at least a lot of different cable providers when they were still on cable with the Bally Sports and things like that. It kind of went off YouTube TV, went off a lot of different cable providers. And in essence, they have a lower attendance. And it's like, well, what's happening? It's like, well, people just don't have a chance to, like you said, familiarize yourself with the team. So it's a fine balance because yes, there is money that comes into these schools. And yes, they should take opportunities to do that. There is just maybe an unintended side effect that, again, if you're not careful, could become a problem. But
right.
That being
it's
said,
a concern.
Yes,
is all.
We're not predicting that like nobody's going to watch Bemidji State games anymore. That's not what we're saying.
Every NSIC university is going to shut down because of this. Like, yes. Yeah, no, that's not what's going to happen.
That's not what we're saying. It's just you got to be careful, and that's the one thing you got to be careful. Like we are, we'll talk about this and things like that. and we're gonna get the subscription because we watch Beaver games.
Yeah,
so
of course.
what do we talk about the Beavers? What are we gonna do? Not watch the Beavers? Like what are you talking about? So like there is that, but you are completely right, Ian. There is just a fine line that we got to be careful of going into this territory. Again, these athletic departments aren't gonna say no to money, and that's the nature of the beast. Completely get it. That's just, you got to do your job, but you just got to be careful that you don't kind of leave behind people who maybe would just kind of want to casually watch a game or two, or they have a relative that plays Division II ball and they're like, oh, I want to watch their game today or something like that.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily want to get the subscription. So there is a fine line. We'll monitor it.
Well,
overall,
and thankfully, CJ, it is Midco, right?
It is Midco.
It's
right.
not like they're using Flow, and now we have to pay for
Exactly.
both Flow and Midco to watch the hockey.
In the grand
other
scheme of things,
sports.
it's like just buy a couple months extra subscription. If you already could afford it, you probably can afford it for the other
Well, and
months.
then, we don't know how much they're going to raise the subscription price. I
Right.
have to assume that it's going
going
to
up
be
a
raised
little.
to at least $30 a month because of A, inflation, and B, they're adding more content to it now. So they're gonna upcharge you guys. It's a capitalist America here. So
and
the way it
two,
works.
when you think about with this like Midco too, Midco, like when we were in college and when we were following kind of things like that, Midco was a cable channel on Midco provider. Like if you had the Midco cable, you had a channel for Midco Sports, and there was Midco Sports Plus, which was their extra channel, and they would do some NSIC games, but they would do a lot of Summit. They did a lot of Missouri Valley football games and things like that. And again, we talk about COVID changing the landscape. They've shut down the cable channel. It's not there anymore, and they have moved strictly to basically doing games online. They are not going to have a cable channel that has programs and has things like that. They are strictly just, we are going to help stream games on the internet. That is their new business model, because of course that's exactly where sports are changing. And this is the other thing, Ian, that we also talked about before we started recording. The NSIC is probably one of the last D2 conferences to offer free on-demand streaming of games.
Exactly. Yes. No, that's a great point. And I'm happy you brought that up. I completely forgot that we had talked about that. Basically every road game the Beavers have played, whether it's in the playoffs or not, has been behind a paywall. And so we've been very fortunate with the NSIC for so long that it has been a free, watch, to be able to turn on. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever when I got to campus as a freshman at Bemidji State, when I learned that there was a website that you could just watch all of the sporting events at the school for free.
Mm-hmm.
What would be really cool is if they could offer some sort of student discount for this subscription package, even if you're making students pay.
Maybe a podcaster discount I'm all in on.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be great. But yeah, just something to help, keep the students engaged and keep them wanting to go to games and being able to watch the away games a little bit easier. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we could have a whole podcast about sports in general turning to a subscription-based service. And
are you telling me people don't like that they have to subscribe to Peacock to watch an NFL playoff game or Netflix to watch a Christmas game?
No. I mean, dude, and that's just one sport, right? That's just the NFL. God forbid
you
you're
follow
a fan
your favorite
of
Big
other
Ten team. You need to have 4 different subscription services.
You like European soccer? I hope you have $30,000 a month to spend on subscriptions, because every league is behind a different paywall.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is just more a sign of the times than anything else, but
it's
unfortunate, just kind of in its real feel impact. But
that's next fall. For the rest of the year, you can still watch Beaver hoops,
yes.
Beaver baseball, Beaver softball.
And if anything, it means you should enjoy it more.
Exactly.
Enjoy the free content that the NSIC has. Watch the Beaver games. Root against Mankato, whoever they play. We can hate watch Mankato together.
I love a good hate watch.
Let's do it. We should just do that. That'll be our next thing. We're not gonna do like a live stream watch. Like they do people watching games. Barstool always has those streams. We'll do a stream, except instead of us watching a Beaver game, it will just be us watching a UMD game.
Yes.
And then they'll have they'll give up a touchdown. We'll just be sitting there
we're not even watching.
Love it.
Watching our
go Sioux Falls. Let's do this. You gave the world Kalen DeBoer. So that
I did not know that, by the way. I had no clue
Sioux Falls
until that came out, that he lost the semifinal game like 55-0 in Sioux Falls. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But
yeah, that's the Signetti with Indiana was Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis in D2.
Oh, yes.
Doing a lot there. He was also at maybe one other D2 stop. Brian Kelly was at Grand Valley State, I think, kind of when they were getting off the ground. So
Nice.
there's a D2 football. People trash it. I will not ever.
There's plenty of
great football, plenty of great
Look
coaches.
at Trinidad Chambliss right now. I mean, he's
he was playing for Ferris State last year.
Yeah, he's going
he's
nuts
one win
for
away
Ole
from
Miss.
Daddy.
That's crazy. D2, man.
And by the way, he jumped right into SEC football. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to say that the upper Midwest D2 football could handle the grind of an SEC schedule. But Trinidad Chambliss didn't have any problem coming in when Jackson Dart had trouble. So that's just my piece there. So anyway, to move on to some other sports, Ian, before we get into that, why don't we talk about the good folks who help support this podcast in the Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation? Because once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or just love cheering on the Beavers, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud supporters of the Beaver Banter podcast. All right, Ian, shifting gears to sports being played for the Beavers. Let's jump back into men's hockey. It's been a long time since we've gotten to talk about these guys, and it's great to see them back on the ice. They had that home exhibition against the Gophers. And again, as we talked about, Sanford Center has seen some action on their ice with the World Junior games that they had in Bemidji. And then you also have the fact that the World Juniors took a couple Gophers on that one. But the Beavers come out with a shootout victory. And, overall, it's just a good way to get on the ice and shake off the rust after not playing a game for dang near a month.
100%. I mean, that's the biggest thing is they came out and they looked a little shaky to start off. I think the Gophers got a couple of goals early. It
was really early. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't unfortunately get a chance to watch this. I was watching the other two Gophers that were playing in the World Junior game at the XL Energy Center, or I'm sorry, the Grand Casino Arena on the same night. But it's good. That's exactly what I was thinking that whole time is how good this is for the Gophers to get their, or for the Beavers, the good road.
For the Beavers to get the Gophers. Yes.
To get the Gophers, just to get ice time, man, get your feet back underneath you. You haven't played hockey, competitive hockey, and this isn't competitive hockey. It's of course an exhibition, but you're playing a team that isn't your own in a practice, right?
It's a game setting. It's a preseason
setting.
Live. You can't stop and blow your whistle and redo a play. You're in it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you need, I think, to jump back into kind of this spring semester of hockey that's going to be so important coming down the stretch with the top of the CCHA really tightening up while the Beavers have been off. I mean, there's been a lot of games played in the CCHA while the Beavers have been off. But yeah, just a good opportunity for the Beavers to get their skates underneath them. I think the only player that really didn't suit for the Beavers that is a contributor in terms of heavy minutes was Mitch Wolf in this game. So a lot of players got a lot of minutes. Good for the goalies to get some rotation. Goals from a very important player. Kirkland Irie got a goal. Of course, it doesn't count, but we talked about him, a month ago. If he can get rolling for the second half of the season, that'd be huge. Maybe, just maybe. Guess who he scored against last year that kind of started his hot tear and got him to lead the Beavers in points last year? He scored a goal against the Gophers. That's what he does again this year. I'm hoping that it can kind of, even though the game doesn't count and the goal doesn't count, I'm hoping that it kind of lights something within him to keep that up over the rest of the season. Ryan Henderson, a pretty unlikely source for the second goal for the Beavers, and then Max Nemetstikov with just 6 seconds left in the second period. And then, of course, Tanner Lutke ties it for the Gophers in the middle of the third period. The game ends 3-3. Sure, play in overtime. I think a shootout in a regular season game in a non-conference opponent that doesn't mean anything is already trivial enough. I think doing a shootout when it's an exhibition is just kind of like, all right, we already let them play the overtime. Let's just call it a tie and get the hell out of here. Like, come on.
Hey, they want to work on the trick shots,
Yeah, and at the very least, like, I get it. It's stupid. It's trivial. It doesn't count for anything. But it is an opportunity to get your players some more, attempts against a different goalie that isn't seeing them every day. Like, they probably practice it, but it's against a goalie that doesn't see you practice it all the time.
Right.
So that's at least maybe something good to take.
Do what the Wild do and just kind of deadleg themselves right until they get to the end, and then
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of been the thing. So it's exactly what you needed it to be. You were able to get some on ice experience. You're able to get kind of your head back in it. And then you get ready because now you're thrown back into the mix of things with Michigan Tech, a team that you were able to get some points against earlier in the season on the road. Now they're coming to the Sanford Center this weekend. And Ian, as we kind of set the stage for the unofficial second half of the Bemidji State hockey season, where do the Beavers sit in the CCHA standings? Where do things kind of sit as we get ready for this next run?
Yeah, so the Beavers right now are sitting in third place. They played 12 games, which is tied for the least in the conference so far. Michigan Tech and Bowling Green have also only played 12. Every other team in the league has played 14 or 13 games. So they are in third place. If they get a sweep this weekend, they would jump back into first place. They have games in hand against both St. Thomas and Minnesota State. They are 2 points behind St. Thomas for second. They are 3 points behind Minnesota State for first place. Just a big opportunity here to take some points off of a team that, I mean, as good as it looks right now for the Beavers, like, we could be talking about this team 3 weeks from now and we could be like, oh my God, the sky is falling. We're in sixth place. We haven't gotten any points. Like, it's a complete disaster. The top of this conference, the top six, everybody talked about the top six all season long. And here we are about halfway through the season. They are separated by just 7 points, the top 6 teams. So it is exactly what we thought it would be. It's a complete mess. I brought up after the Augustana series that we took a majority points from Augustana this year. We took 7 of 12 possible points from Augustana. That's good. We did the same thing to Lake Superior State. We only played them once this year. We took 5 of 6 points. And I said, if we can do that against every team in the CCHA, we're going to have a pretty good season. This is your opportunity. If you get 4 out of 6 points this weekend, you have officially taken majority points from Michigan Tech this year. You took 3 on the road. Michigan Tech just got blasted by Air Force over the weekend. I can't remember the exact final score. It was like 11-2 or 11-3 or something. Like, they got boat raced by the Falcons, and they're kind of reeling. So you don't know what type of team you're going to get. Are you going to get a team that's pissed off and motivated, or are you going to get a team that's kind of dejected? I figure it's probably going to be the first one. You're probably going to have to weather the storm in the first period a little bit. They're probably going to come out and be playing pretty aggressive offensively. But we'll see. We'll see. It's a super important series. Like, you look at the upcoming schedule. It is 3 series against teams that are all in that top 6. Michigan Tech at home, St. Thomas on the road, and Bowling Green at home. Just a super important stretch here for the Beavers. And if they can get it started off with, at least 4 of 6 points, you'd love to take 2 wins away from this weekend to get 5 or 6 points, but we'll see how it goes. These teams love to play overtime against each other, it seems. So it's going to be fun. It's always fun when Tech comes to town. I'm sure they'll have their little, 2 rows of fans that come with to support them, as they usually do. But I'm just super excited. It's been too long since the Beavers have been on the ice playing competitive hockey. I'm super excited to see them back out there.
It's finally going to be good to see them get back out and to start doing some things and to get going. By the way, just kind of a few things you notice if you look into the individual stats as you get going here. In goals so far this year, if you look at the top of the conference, obviously You have Whalen for St. Thomas. You have Gaffney for St. Thomas. And then sitting in third is Oliver Peer with 12 goals on the season in 20 games, sitting third in the conference. So just a nice little thing for Bemidji State to be able to kind of have that feather in the cap offensively for them. And then, of course, you go down a little bit and, you have McLennan, you have Magnuson, you have things like that. But overall, as this season gets going, this is going to be a huge series just to set the tone. It doesn't matter how good either team is. It's always good to beat Tech, right? Like I know we just trashed Mankato a little bit earlier. I know we just trashed UMD a little bit earlier, but dang it, it's Tech hate week. You know what I mean? Like this is, remember, were you there in, I think it was the 2018 playoffs, maybe, where Bemidji State got bounced by Tech and they showed that, their 2 rows of fans showed up. Think maybe you weren't there that game. I think
so.
It's a group. Yeah, there. All I remember is the entire student section at the Sanford Center for Bemidji State just got up and went over to them and like stood next to them. That's all I remember. We tried to do something. I was just following the crowd, but didn't help. Beavers lost. They got eliminated in that playoff game. But overall, it just there was very nice Tech people I talked with that day. But overall, if I'm going to make you drive all the way over here, I want you to drive back sad. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's Michigan Tech and they have that long bus ride back to the UP. I mean, CJ, these two teams are dead even in a lot of stats this year. I mean, I'm just looking over some of the, team statistics on the CCHA website, and you look at these teams, they are right next to each other in like the top 6 categories here. Goals scored per game, Bemidji State 3rd, Michigan Tech 4th. Goals allowed per game, Michigan Tech 3rd, Bemidji State 4th. Assists per game, BSU 3, Michigan Tech 4. Points per game, Bemidji State 3, Michigan Tech 4. Shots percentage, Michigan Tech 1, Bemidji State 2. Shots on goal per game, Bemidji State 4, Michigan Tech 5. So it's these two teams, and those are just cherry pick statistics that they just happen to be right next to each other in. But when it's that many off the rip, it is a little bit alarming. Michigan Tech's penalty kill percentage has been very good this year. That's something the Beavers are going to have to try to capitalize on. Something they weren't very good against Augustana doing until the very end of that series in Sioux Falls. Michigan Tech 2nd in the conference with an 84.5% penalty kill. Their power play is a pretty abysmal 17.5%. Beavers are a little bit more balanced in that area, sitting at 20%, 20.8 on the power play, which is pretty good. It's 4th in the conference, but I'm not going to scoff at a 20% power play. And then just a 76.7% penalty kill, which is up about 10 points from way early in the season. So we're working on it, and hopefully it's something that can very much improve still over the back half of the season. But yeah, special teams is always such a key component to the game. And obviously if you don't take penalties, you don't have to worry about penalty killing. And, that's something the Beavers have been up and down on this season. It feels like they either play a really clean game or a game where they take 5 penalties, and there's rarely any in between.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to be a big series, just setting the tone. It's going to be, again, every weekend is important in this CCHA race. You don't want to fall behind. You want to be able to set yourself up. Again, there's still 2 months to go in this regular season, but if you want to compete for that McNaughton Cup, you got to be able to, you can't fall behind here in this important stretch. So if you look at, not only Tech, you now go on the road to St. Thomas next weekend, and then host Bowling Green. So, and then things kind of lighten up a little bit with Northern and Ferris before you play the Mavs and the Tommies again to wrap up the season. So it's an important stretch here for the Beavers to take advantage of. So one other thing I should mention, this weekend's games are a part of what's called the 218 Showcase. And this has been something that I've been intrigued by since they've kind of announced it. And I think it's existed a little bit, but this is kind of a more developed plan here. The 218 Sports Showcase is at the Sanford Center. It's got sponsors. It's got this whole thing. There is going to be obviously Bemidji State versus Michigan Tech for hockey, but in terms of high school, there's going to be some high school hockey games with Bemidji, East Grand Forks, and Rock Ridge all being there to play. Now, I'm not sure if I take a look at the schedule, I guess how that quite works out for games, but there'll be over the weekend. I suppose they'll play each other. So those 3 teams, they'll kind of round robin it for the weekend for high school. and then of course the 2 NCAA games, and then there's what they call a fan fest for both of those games. So from the Sanford Center on January 9th, starting at noon, is the JV match between East Grand and Bemidji. That'll be at the Bemidji Community Arena, excuse me. And then at the Sanford Center, it's East Grand versus Bemidji. And then after that, you have a fan fest getting ready for puck drop between Michigan Tech and Bemidji State. And then the next day, it's Rockridge versus Bemidji JV, followed by the varsity game, again, kind of in those same respective arenas. And then a fan fest getting ready for Michigan Tech versus Bemidji State on the second night. You know, I don't know how big of an event this is going to be. I don't quite know what it all includes, but I think this is just kind of a fun little spin on the weekend to celebrate hockey in Minnesota, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's fun to get the high school teams involved, you know, at the Sanford Center and just in general around the Bemidji community. So I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, won't be able to make it up for that. I was maybe hoping that I was going to be able to sneak up when it was announced, but didn't work out this year. So hopefully it's something we see more of in the future. I like when they try to get stuff like that going and get other teams from around the community more involved.
Right, exactly. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. East Grand Forks, that's the defending state champions, right? Or
I
was the because I know
women.
Yeah, okay, girls.
Men's,
Yep.
I think it was Moorhead. That
Yeah,
won the boys tournament. I'm pretty sure the girls, not women, because they're high schoolers, right? I'm pretty sure that was East Grand Forks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
God, I hope it was.
I know
somebody's going to be yelling at me in the Discord if it wasn't.
But
I'm pretty sure it was a Northern Sweep last year. So you very well could be right.
Let me class A boys.
Northern Sweep and a couple of schools that are right on the border of North Dakota as well. They knew what they were doing. Just going into the other side. They're like, we don't want to be in North Dakota. We're gonna cross the border.
We'll put up with it, but we are not on deal with it for much longer. So this is for boys state high school hockey champions according to Vintage MN Hockey. For Class 2A last year, Moorhead beat Stillwater, and then in Class A, East Grand Forks beat Cathedral in overtime.
Oh, I'm dumb. I completely just blanked on the fact that there was two classes of certainly they couldn't both win. Actually they could, moron.
I thought that there was that East Grand had a girls hockey champion as well. So let me look that up now, because now I'm invested in this. Last year was Hill Murray for girls, and then in AA, and then Dodge County for Class A.
Still green. That's what confused me. I knew that East Grand Forks won something, and I knew that a female team won. So that's where I got mixed up and confused. So
yeah, you go.
I'll blame that.
Yes, exactly. All right, cool. All right, glad we got that all straight.
Speaking of women's hockey.
Speaking of,
women's hockey was on the road in North Andover, Massachusetts, and picked up a W on Saturday against Merrimack College with a 3-1 victory. So that's cool. That's very good. We needed them to do a little bit better in non-conference, and this weekend certainly was the case of doing that. They played Lindenwood a couple months ago at this point. Didn't go the way we'd hoped, but they go on the road, pick up a win on Saturday. Autumn Cooper with the first goal of the game, Morgan Smith with the second goal of the game, and Haley Armstrong with the third goal of the game. Merrimack did get a goal with 45 seconds left to make it 3-1. Unfortunate for the shutout hopes, but then it was a draw, a tie, if you will, on Sunday, 2-2 with a shootout win for the Beavers. And I guess I'm not 100% certain how the women's college hockey landscape works. I assume it's a very similar. I admittedly have never followed the selection process for the tournament quite as close as for the men. I don't know if the shootout counted for anything or not, but they do have it listed on here as a tie with a shootout win. So I will just go ahead and say that.
Taking
Morgan
the dub.
Smith,
Morgan
Smith, another goal, and then Rayleigh Carney got the second goal. Both of those were in the first period. And Merrimack did end up tying it in the second period, and it finished like that at 2-2. The Beavers were able to pick up any extra points if that's the case in the shootout. If not, it was a moral victory in the shootout, and they won the series regardless with a win and a draw, which is great. And hopefully, like you said, I believe that is the end now of the non-con schedule for the Beavers, and it's just 7 more opponents, 7 more weekends of hockey to try to increase your seeding whatsoever. It starts off with St. Thomas at St. Thomas this weekend. I believe you split with them earlier this season. Yes, at the Sanford Center. It was a 5-0 loss on Friday and a 2-1 win on Saturday. So hopefully we can pay them back and at least pick up 3 points this weekend. St. Thomas is probably the team you're chasing the most closely right now in the WCHA. So this is going to be a big weekend. If you can start building on this, it's Amber Fricklin's second season as head coach of the Beavers. Maybe we start seeing some steam picked up here after a Christmas break, after a holiday season where, get the legs a little fresh, and we'll see what we can do down the backstretch here.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an interesting weekend. By the way, first time Bemidji State makes the trip to Lee and Penny Anderson Arena in that new barn there for the Tommies. So
yes,
it's good for the team just to get some wins, just to get back in that column. Their first win since November 22nd, which was huge for them. So they went all of December without getting a win. Now, granted, they played 4 games in between then, so it wasn't like. So, that stat sounds worse than it actually is. But just again, that still is a long amount of time to go without a win, even if you haven't played that many games. So for them to get the win, for them to get the shootout win, just a good confidence booster as they get ready for, like you said, this second half of the season. And, you have Minnesota, you have Wisconsin on deck. It's not a gimme because, again, you split with them earlier, but this is kind of your chance to pick up some points, try and get things going in the right direction for the second half of the season. And again, as I've talked about on this podcast, I'd like to see the wins come against St. Thomas. I'd like to see some wins come throughout the rest of the season as well. But overall, I think too, I want to see that goal differential, and I want to see in the WCHA, I want to see, if you look on the standings page, there's the goal differential. And I think Bemidji State, and this has been a multi-year thing, just that goal differential has kind of got out of hand. And I don't need like the overall season number to drastically change, but if you start from like this moment on the rest of the season, how can you get that goal differential to look a lot closer to what St. Thomas has? So St. Thomas has, goals scored 57, goals allowed 65, a 57-65 ratio. Bemidji State right now is at a 36 goals scored to 77 goals allowed. Can you, again, that number doesn't need to have a drastic change, but can you from this moment on make that look pretty good, make that look presentable, make that look a little bit closer to that, roughly number that St. Thomas has that's right above you in the standings. Even though the goal differential looks the way it is, Bemidji State is only 4 points behind St. Thomas for that spot right above them. St. Cloud State has 12 points, Minnesota State was 17, UMD 24, the Gophers 30, Ohio State 32, Wisconsin 37. At the top of the WCHA. So, does that make sense? Like, I'm not looking I don't need every weekend to be a win, but it's just, can you make those games more competitive? Give yourselves the opportunity to maybe steal one from some of these other teams the rest of the season. And I think we'll have a fun opportunity for women's hockey the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, even if it isn't picking up points, is it, having a really good game against Minnesota or against Wisconsin? Let's see what happens. But yeah, St. Thomas, definitely some winnable games here. I mean, let's come home with a sweep. That would be awesome. I mean, talk about getting the vibes up for 2026. You couldn't get them much higher than a sweep against St. Thomas. But again, we'll see.
Go into the fancy new barn and show them who's boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, Ian, let's talk a little hoops. But before we do that, let's give another shout out to our great friends, the Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEA VERS.
All right, let's hoop it up here, starting with men's basketball as we get ready for this home stretch again. Not a ton of action while we were gone over the break, but as we just kind of recap things, Bemidji State right now 6-7. Just going to move on from that. After a loss on Saturday, January 3rd to University of Minnesota Duluth at the BSU Gymnasium, 89-77 was that final score. And if you just kind of take a look at some of the numbers in that game overall, really you look at the turnover discrepancy where Bemidji State lost the turnover battle by a margin of 10. And that's what ends up kind of shaking out in a game you lose by 12. You forfeit that opportunity for some extra possessions and some things kind of get away from you there. So Bemidji State was down 50-39 at halftime, had a better second half, kind of a little close to even 39-38. UMD still outscored them, but getting things closer to that number. Leading the Beavers in scoring that day was Eddie Jalo-Hedquist, who had 24 points. Henry Shannon III had 15. John Pekarich had 12. And Austin Josephson knocked in 10 as well. So, when you look at things overall, Bemidji State had a good shooting night, 55% from the field, 44% from three, 90% from the free throw line, even won the rebounding battle, which again is something that we've talked about with Bemidji State coaches. We've just kind of talked about on this program on our own is important. But when you lose that turnover battle by 10, it's certainly a tough one to recover from, Ian.
Yeah, of course. You lose a game by 12 points, like you said, CJ. It's those little things matter. Points off turnovers. Minnesota Duluth had 26. You only had 11. Those are big things. Defensively, it's just 89 points is a lot of points to have to chase. And Duluth is a really good team. They're first place in the NSIC North right now. You've played them both times, and now you go on your little South bender over the middle stretch of the season here before you close it off with a couple.
What a way to start it.
Games to the north. Yeah, it's gonna be a difficult stretch here for the Beavs coming up. What do they got? Southwest and
yep,
Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls, yeah. So Sioux Falls is a gettable opponent. I mean, they're 6-8, 3-5 on the season in the conference. So similar position to the Beavers. It's going to be a very, very important game. These are games that you got to be hoping to pick up. And then when Sioux Falls comes around to some of the other opponents that are hovering around you in the standings, Jamestown, Moorhead, Northern, you're going to hope that Sioux Falls wins those games. But you got to do all you can to put yourself in the best position and hope that, they help you out when it comes. And, like I said, you got to make your own bed and then hope that it's just, ready to lay in when the tournament time comes around. You don't want to be sitting there the last couple of weeks of the season and need all these scenarios to go your way. But yeah, Southwest is going to be tough though to start off. I mean, they're 8-5, definitely not the Southwest we've seen in years past, but just historically, like it's been one of the better teams at the top of the NSIC South for so long. They're third in the South. I was looking at the overall standings. But yeah, third in the South, basically a three-way tie for first right now between St. Cloud State, Augustana, and Southwest. But yeah, just 8-5 overall, 6-2 in the conference. But in general, that team is just very, very talented. Year in and year out, it just feels like they're always at the top of the South. And whether or not they're having the statistical season that they've been having in the past, it's still going to be a tough opponent to come up and face for the Beavers. Offensively, though, they do play a little bit of a slower pace of play. They are 13th in the conference in terms of points per game at just 75.2. But, I mean, what do you take from that? Because Minnesota Duluth is 12th in the 12th in the conference in scoring, and they're still, tops in the NSIC North. Defensively, both those teams, again, are very comparable. Minnesota Duluth has the second best defense in the conference. Southwest Minnesota State has the third best defense in the conference. Sioux Falls is a much more gettable opponent. Like I said, offensively, Sioux Falls averaging second most points in the conference at 83.9. Bemidji State actually just behind them, by the way, at 83.6. Offense has not been the issue this year. It's been defense for Bemidji State. They're 11th in the conference, the Beavers are. Sioux Falls is 15th. So the Beavers should have an advantage in that matchup. I do think best case scenario, the Beavers can come away with a sweep this weekend if they play their best brand of basketball. But I think a split would be something to
They
be
should get a split.
pretty
Yeah.
happy with. Be able to beat at least, Sioux Falls. Be very disappointing, if you go in there and you beat Southwest somehow, and then, you come out and you lose to Sioux Falls the next night. But hey, that's the NSIC, man. We can't just sit here and talk about it all season long and say it's a tough conference top to bottom, and then be surprised when Sioux Falls wins a game. Like it's,
Right.
You still got to go out there and perform. It's a tough conference, but yeah, I don't know.
You want to know an
excited
interesting
see
wrinkle to this game that I find fascinating is that for Bemidji State and Southwest, those two teams lead the conference in 3-point percentage. Bemidji State is tops in the NSIC with 40.6% field goals made from 3-point land. Southwest Minnesota State, 39.9. So these two teams are practically shooting the same. Now, Bemidji State shoots a lot more 3-pointers. Bemidji State has shot 310 on the year, whereas Southwest has shot 273. The team that's shot the most 3-pointers has been UMary. They've shot 409 on the season. So they're just their threes will start falling if they just keep shooting them. So, but for Bemidji State, it's very fascinating that they're going to, they've had that 3-point success, and they're going to be facing a team as well that has that. When you look at opponent 3-point percentage, Bemidji State doing an okay job here is you look at the percentages. They're fourth best in the conference in terms of opponent 3-point percentage at 33.2%. And if you look at Southwest, their opponent 3-point percentage is 37.3. So there is an opportunity, which is second to last in the conference. There is an opportunity if Bemidji State can get that 3-point game going, that it can help keep them in the game. Again, if they rebound, limit the turnovers, sounds cliche, but overall, if you can limit the mistakes and maximize that slight advantage you could have in the 3-point game, has a good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you consider, like you said, the defensive aspect of it. Southwest not been great defending the 3 this year. Neither is Sioux Falls for that matter. Sioux Falls has not been good at shooting the 3 either. They're third to last in the conference at just 30.3%. So we talk a lot about how teams that shoot a lot of threes kind of live by the 3 and die by the 3. Bemidji State, I mean, they don't even like chuck up shots. Like you said, CJ, they're probably like middle of the conference in terms of like 3-pointers attempted. They're actually 12th.
What I call
don't really
efficiency.
shoot. Yeah, they don't really shoot that many of them. And maybe, I'm assuming that their numbers would go down a little bit, if they shot more of them. It's hard to stay that efficient when you put up more shots. But still, it's good. They're picking their spots. They're hitting their shots. And hopefully they can continue that this weekend. It'll be big and a key to potentially pulling an upset in the first game and staving off the Cougars in the second one.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that's going to be important in this one, and we've talked about it before, but turnover margin. Bemidji State, according to the NSIC stat page, the worst team in the NSIC when it comes to turnover margin. They are at a negative 5.4 turnover margin. That's worse than the conference. The best is Minnesota Duluth at 3.64 above water. Somewhere in the middle is Southwest. They have 0.69. They're sitting at 10th in the conference. So, there's a little bit of fluctuation here between there. And then if you look at Sioux Falls, they're 0.79. So you're going to play a couple teams that can at least take care of the ball well enough. Turnovers. And again, we talked with Coach Masick a couple shows ago, and go back and listen to that. And he said it like they understand what they need to do. It's not like they're like, that's not an issue. They fully understand that, like, hey, if we can clean that up, we are going to put ourselves in such a good position going forward. And it's just a matter of, can they find a way to execute and do it? And we'll find out this coming weekend. Something we're also going to find out in women's basketball as they get ready to take on these same two opponents in SMSU and USF. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but these two teams kind of similar to their male counterparts in terms of their spots in the standings.
Yeah, SMSU 4th in the NSIC South, 7-6, 5-3 in the conference. Sioux Falls 8-6, 5-3 in the conference. Bemidji State 6-6 overall, 3-5 in the conference. It's not been a pleasant last couple of weekends for the Beavers. They had that game against Minnesota Duluth. I think they lost by 28 points. They just didn't shoot well in the game whatsoever.
Shot 29% from the field,
13% from 3, and under 70% from the free throw line. You're playing one of the better teams in the NSIC North. That's just not going to cut it. I mean, just straight up and down, and they know that, and it's it's not going to cut it against some of the bottom teams in the conference. So Minnesota Duluth is a good defensive team. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But now you get an opportunity to again see some not unfamiliar opponents. It's not like you don't play them every year, but you play them less often than you play teams from the North. So get your feet wet in the NSIC South, and I mean, hey, like it or not, the Beavers are in one of the best positions we've seen them in a long time to try to make a push for a playoff position. So we could see that, if they can pick up 2 or 3 wins from the South when they're going through that gauntlet of 8 teams, that's huge. That's a huge step towards getting, maybe you get another 3 or 4 wins when you come back to the North. Now you've set yourself up with 8 or 9 wins in the conference. And I mean, that would be outstanding from what we've seen. So hopefully they can keep up the hot play. It was a bad game against Duluth, but you got to brush it off and just move past. The best thing about it is there's games coming up this weekend that you can use to try to block that out and make some new memory.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at Bemidji State right now, if you look at points per game, the Beavers are 12th in the NSIC for women's basketball with 68.1. A couple notches above them, going up to the top here for Southwest Minnesota State in 6th, 71.5. Sioux Falls, 74.6. In terms of points scored. When you look at points allowed, Bemidji State's defense, again, they're kind of sitting in the point differential pretty even. Defensively, they allow 68.8 points per game. Whereas, again, you get to the top of the conference, Sioux Falls has been a team that's not great defensively. They allow 73 points per game on average. That is 3rd worst in the conference. And then Southwest Minnesota State, 70.2. So there is some opportunities here if you can find a way to convert and find a way to, keep that close and, hey, try and split on the weekend. So there is some opportunity here, but again, it's going to come down to finding a way to execute and finding a way to get it done. Going back to that game against UMD, Evan Apinga finished with 16 points, Cassandra Karen, 16 points, Ashlyn Gunther, 5 points, and Macy Lino had 5 as well. And you look at, again, for Bemidji State, kept things close in the first quarter, down by 4, and then it was those middle 2 quarters where they got outscored in the second quarter by 11, got outscored in the third quarter by 14, and that pretty much kind of sealed the deal for them there. So finding a way just to put that full 40 minutes together and finding a way to come out on top. And Bemidji State has an opportunity to see what they can do this weekend. Yeah.
Probably the biggest negative for this team so far this year has been the rebounding. They're dead last in the NSSC in total rebounds, which is 31.4 rebounds per game. 15th in terms of rebound margin, only ahead of Minnesota Crookston at a negative 5.5. So if they can hit the glass a little harder and try to clean up those, you look at the big thing would be team. They're not showing me how many offensive rebounds per game they give up, but I assume it's not a great number if you are losing the rebounding margin by that much. Normally, that means you're not cleaning up the defensive glass quite as well as you want to be. So if they can do that a little bit better over the back stretch of this season, that's definitely something that can help them improve. Definitely the points differential in some of these games, and maybe keep some of these games closer against tough opponents at the top of the conference.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple stats I want to point out, and then we can kind of move on here. But if you look at the turnover margin, Bemidji State's sitting pretty good. They're 5th in the conference with 1.25. I just want to tell you how big Minnesota State is. And again, under no circumstances do you got to hand it to them. But their turnover margin is plus 17.71.
That's crazy, dude.
Crazy, right? They average 17.8 turnovers, and their opponents average 35.5.
Yeah.
Insane.
Whew.
That's pretty good. Looking at some other notes, by the way, Bemidji State, if you just want to look at ball movement offensively, I think they got to find a way to keep the ball moving, to find some of these open looks, and to be able to create not just for themselves, but for their teammates. Bemidji State, in terms of assists per game, sitting at 9.92. That's dead last in the conference. Minnesota State, 18.36. So finding a way just to create a few more assists, create a few more for the teammates certainly would help things out over the course Just of the game, just again, trying to fix those offensive woes, just trying to find a way to create a little bit more of that ball movement, a little bit more of those opportunities for themselves and see what can happen. So, all right. Anything else, Ian, before we wrap up and get out of here?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything that we need to get to. We'll have more next week. A lot of previewing this week, not a lot of recapping because teams are just getting back into the swing of things, but exciting times. Spring's coming sooner or later. Obviously, for those of us in northern Minnesota,
the first week of January.
Yeah, it's on the horizon, guys. Trust me, it's coming.
It's coming soon, bro.
Yeah.
Football season just ended. Ian, your Chargers. How we feeling?
My official prediction is that it'll probably be a loss, but I think it'll probably be like the least damning loss of the three in the Herbert era.
They play the Patriots, right?
They play the Patriots. And so part of me wants to say, yeah, we're going to say they're on fraud watch because they've played obviously the weakest schedule of any team. And
they still couldn't even clean up the 1 seed. Yeah.
Right. Well, no thanks to the Chargers who started Trey Lance on Sunday. But yeah, it's a really tough position to be in because the last 2 times the Chargers have been to the playoffs, I've said, yippee, we get to play the Jags or the Texans, and it's not ended well at all either time. So I said this year, I don't care who it is. Rest your starters, get healthy, whatever, whoever we play, you just got to go out and find a way to win. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. I think they can win, but do I think they will? Probably not. You're playing a playoff game in Foxborough.
Has that ever gone bad for the Chargers?
I don't know if they're going to be exercising any demons this weekend, but I'm hoping for the best. We'll see.
He's got to go up against Drake May. So that's
it is 2 quarterbacks that I have a great amount of respect for. Obviously Justin Herbert, and then I think Drake May is on that trajectory, man. He
seems like an ethical hooper.
He does.
Pushes the ball downfield, a little bit of a playmaker. I haven't seen a ton of Drake May, but those Herbert and May kind of share a lot of same similarities, right?
Very much so. Very much so. There, honestly, I've always compared Herbert to Josh Allen. He just doesn't quite have
without the elite running ability, I'm going to truck you.
I think that if you say that Josh Allen has an A+ rushing ability, I think Herbert has A-. I genuinely do. Herbert just hasn't done it. This year he's done it a lot more.
He doesn't want to break down completely. Yeah.
They're both kind of like Josh Allen light in a fact where they both have mobility. They just don't use it as much as Allen does. Allen has more of a Superman kind of mentality to him than I think either of these two guys do, but they are very much the same archetype of passer. Big, tall, strong arm, sneaky athletic guys. There's been some runs one of these days, dude, I swear Herbert's going to get that 50-some yard touchdown run. It's coming. I swear to God, but they just never blocked the last defender when he'll just break a 25-yarder. But I don't know. We'll see. It's going to take something weird. If the Chargers don't get something weird to happen, like a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown or a block punt or something, if they don't get something like that, it's probably not going to happen. But
they need to steal an extra possession and grind the Patriots to dust.
I do think the defense is going to ball out. We got to treasure Jesse Minter while we have him on defense because he might not be around next season. He might be filling one of these coaching vacancies.
What are you gonna do when he becomes the head coach of the Raiders, Ian?
I don't care. He'll be dead
He's
to me.
Be back in 2 years. Yeah,
he'll be back in 2 years, maybe less. Come back.
Packers and Bears play, and I just hope a meteor hits the stadium. That's
as a neutral win I can't wait, dude.
The last win for the Packers came against the Bears. The last win for the Bears came against the Packers. It's such a great stat. Both those two teams are frauds, so I look forward to them. The NFC
playoff picture is a mess because of
such a mess.
Panthers.
By the way, as we talked about on a couple weeks show, when we did football hour, and now we're doing football 3 minutes to wrap up the show. Somebody was saying that the Vikings made a mistake not bringing back Darnold, and turns out he is in company with only Tom Brady to have back-to-back 14-win seasons. So great, thanks guys. I'm glad that all you 9 truthers out there convinced the Vikings to do that. So, all right. Anyway, this is Beaver Banter podcast brought to you by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Thanks for sticking through these final few minutes. Join the Beaver Banter Discord where somebody will inevitably talk about Ian butchering the state hockey champion.
Yeah.
That's all right. I did not know either. That's why I threw you out to dry to have you guess.
It happens.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.